Well, right now I am walking through what is really one of my favorite places in Washington, D.C. This is Arlington National Cemetery. And I love to come here because it's a good place to reflect on the service and the sacrifice of men and women from the past. And it's also a really good place, like any cemetery, to learn a little bit more about history. So, I've done a few Arlington videos before. In this one, I wanted to focus specifically on some of the more well-known or famous figures from World War II. Everybody here has value and worth, and everybody has served or contributed in some way. But I want to focus on some of the people who you might know and maybe a few that you don't. All right, well, I am starting off in one of the distant corners of Arlington National Cemetery to visit the grave of General Jonathan Wainwright. This man was the senior commander of U.S. forces in the Philippines whenever the Japanese attacked on April 9th of 1942. So him and thousands of others escaped to the island of Corregidor. They hid out there for about a month, and then eventually, running out of food and supplies, they were forced to surrender. Wainwright was taken prisoner, was forced to endure the Bataan Death March, and spent 3 years in a Japanese prison camp. Was there until he was liberated in August of 1945. He was Japan's highest ranking prisoner and was called the Hero of Bataan and Corregidor. And for this, he received the Medal of Honor. All right, we've just got started and I'm already getting off on a tangent. I'm assuming that this Wainwright might be the dad of Jonathan Wainwright, but this is so crazy. This caught my eye. Behind this grave, look at what's going on here. There's a dang tree that has grown up and is upending this stone. How crazy is that? Well, if you've ever heard of the Flying Tigers in World War II, then you might have heard of Claire Chennault. Claire Chennault was born in 1893 and was a pilot during World War I. And then whenever the Sino-Japanese War broke out, he went to China in 1937 to help train the Chinese Air Force so that they could defend themselves. And then in 1940, he organized a group of volunteer American aviators that became known as the Flying Tigers. Yeah, they ended up getting incorporated into the 14th Air Force later on whenever the U.S. entered the war. But yeah, here's the grave of Claire Chennault. Here's a guy that you maybe have never heard of, but really should have. This is Benjamin O. Davis Sr., and he was the very first African-American general in the U.S. military. Volunteered in the Spanish-American War and fought in the Philippine-American War, rose through the ranks, and Franklin D. Roosevelt promoted him to brigadier general in 1940. Now here's something else that's really interesting. If you go just up the hill, well, here's the grave of his son, Benjamin O. Davis Jr. Benjamin O. Davis Jr. was in the 99th Pursuit Squadron, which was the first all-black American air unit. So he was one of the Tuskegee Airmen, and he became the first black general in the U.S. Air Force. So quite the interesting story between this father and son duo. Here is the grave of William J. Donovan, who was a Major General, as you can see there. And he was awarded the Medal of Honor in World War I. He also received the Distinguished Service Cross, the Distinguished Service Medal, and the National Security Medal. He's the first person to have received all 4 of those. The reason that I'm including him in a World War II video is he is also the founding director of the Office of Strategic Services, which was the predecessor to the CIA. And I saw that his nickname is Wild Bill. I honestly don't know enough about William Donovan to know why he earned that nickname, but I'm going to have to look him up and learn more about him. So if you take an interest in the naval portion of World War II, and I don't know why you wouldn't, you will probably find the next few graves that I'm visiting to be of interest. Oh, well, I just walked all the way down that dang hill and then had to walk all the way back up because I realized that I had just passed up the grave of William Leahy, who, to my knowledge, is the very first person to get a 5th star, or at least the first Admiral to get a 5th star. Admiral Leahy was on the staff for Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and you can see him in a lot of pictures where there's a lot of dignitaries, you know, with Churchill and such. One quick thing about Leahy, he was very instrumental in having the Normandy invasion delayed until 1944. There was a big push to have it done in 1943, which would have been disastrous, but he really pushed Roosevelt to wait until 1944. Oh, and his wife died in 1942. Oh man. So yeah, he was going through a lot. Yeah, but there's the grave of Admiral Leahy. Oh, dang. They flat put this one on a hill. But here is the grave of Bull Halsey. Bull Halsey, you want to talk about a guy who was there at the beginning and all the way through to the end in World War II. Bull Halsey saw the whole thing. He deployed aircraft on December 7th at Pearl Harbor and was on the deck of the USS Missouri at the very end in 1945 whenever the terms of surrender were signed. Pretty well known for being a bit of a colorful character, but yeah, he was something else, and here is his grave. Well, I visited this grave in a previous video, but I can't hardly come to Arlington and not stop and pay my respects to Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy enlisted in the Army at age 17, was in the 3rd Infantry Division. This guy fought through North Africa, Italy, France. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for holding off an entire company of Germans for an hour in the Colmar Pocket, and then led a counterattack while wounded and out of ammunition. So this guy was something else. Also wrote a book, was an actor in several movies, including To Hell and Back, where he portrayed himself, and tragically died in a plane crash in 1971. Here's the grave of another Medal of Honor recipient who is not too far from where Audie Murphy is buried. This is Captain Bobby Brown. This guy was wounded 13 times in World War II and received 8 Purple Hearts, 2 Silver Stars, Bronze Star, and was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions to help secure the German city of Aachen. But wounded 13 times. That is insane. Looks like he died the same year as Audie Murphy as well. Yeah, I'm gonna have to learn more about his story. And again, here are a few more Medal of Honor recipients. Here is Marine Luther Skaggs, and also George Cregan. I'm not familiar with their stories, but again, they're very close to Audie Murphy here as well. So I'll have to look them up. That's why I'm recording this, so I can remember their names. So while I'm traveling from one point to another, I do want to address something really quick. In the first Arlington video that I posted, I had a number of people who expressed some offense at the fact that I was wearing my cap here. And I don't want to do anything that is offensive in any way, so I actually reached out to Arlington on 3 separate occasions, talked to 3 different people just to make sure, and they assured me that wearing a head cover of any kind here in the cemetery is not a breach of cemetery etiquette. They did say, however, that if I were attending a funeral, then it would be proper to remove my cover. I also talked to a number of people in the military just to make sure, and they all assured me that there's no breach of etiquette by wearing a cap. So I understand where people might be coming from there, but let's just be careful not to make our personal convictions a universal law. But anyway, whatever the case, I don't mean to offend anybody. But anyway, heading on to this next grave. Here's another well-known figure from the Tuskegee Airmen. Here is Daniel Chappie James. He was a decorated fighter pilot who earned his wings at the Tuskegee Army Airfield. Also fought in Korea, flew 101 combat missions there, and also 78 combat missions in Vietnam. So this guy was really something else. Now, just down the line from Chappie James, we have the grave of Alexander Vandergrift. Vandergrift was the commander of the 1st Marine Division during the Battle of Guadalcanal, and it was for his actions there that he was awarded the Medal of Honor, making him the first Marine to be awarded both the Navy Cross and the Medal of Honor. Now, in the first Arlington video that I did, I visited this grave, which is the grave of the Brown bomber, Joe Louis. He served in World War II, but is most known for his career as a heavyweight boxer. And after I posted that video, I had several hundred people point out what a moron I am, because right next to Joe Louis, I completely passed up the grave of Lee Marvin, who is well known as an actor in the movie The Dirty Dozen and also The Big Red One. He was in the Marine Corps and was wounded at the Battle of Saipan. More specifically, well, he was shot in the butt, which, I mean, kind of sounds funny until you know the bigger story, that it severed his sciatic nerve, I believe. So that's not so funny. But anyway, here's the grave of Lee Marvin, right next to Joe Louis. Now, the last time that I was here, I was over on the other side of the cemetery and located the grave of Ira Hayes, who was one of the flag raisers at Iwo Jima. And since then, I've discovered that there are 2 other flag raisers who are buried here at Arlington, and one of them, I believe, is buried right up here. So here is the grave of Michael Strank, one of the 6 flag raisers of Iwo Jima, who was immortalized in Joe Rosenthal's famous photo of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi. Unfortunately, Strank didn't survive the battle. He died about a week after the photo was taken on March 1st, 1945. And just as a side note, coincidence, he is buried in the same section as another Marine Corps hero, John Basilone. Basilone is buried, just off in the distance over there. Alright, so here is the grave of Marine Rene Ggagnon, who again was one of the flag raisers on Iwo Jima. And if you go to the back here, this one has a little bit special marking, which you don't see on the other two. Here you see a relief showing that famous picture. It says, "For God and his country he raised our flag in battle and showed a measure of his pride at a place called Iwo Jima, where courage never died." All right, well, unfortunately, we have ran out of time. I would say that the cemetery is getting ready to close, but it's actually already closed on me. And yeah, I don't want to spend the night here tonight. But anyway, I by no means hit all of the graves that you can see here at Arlington and can learn from. As a matter of fact, I'm definitely going to be coming back someday. Found some today that I didn't know the stories on, so I'm looking forward to diving in and learning a little bit more myself. But anyway, if you ever come to Washington, D.C., come to this place. This is an important place in our country. Right here at Arlington National Cemetery.